The starship whisper drifted through the cosmic void, like a silver needle threading through black velvet, its quantum engines humming a lullaby that Zara Blackwood had grown to love during her 3 years aboard. She pressed her palm against the observation deck's transparent aluminum, watching distant nebulae paint the darkness in shades of purple and gold. At 28, she was the youngest lead quantum engineer in the colonial fleet, though her colleagues often forgot her age. When she lost herself in the elegant mathematics of faster-than-light travel. Another late night, Zara, Captain Hendricks appeared beside her, his weathered face reflecting concern. The man had commanded deep space vessels for 2 decades, but he still worried about his crew like a father. The quantum resonance patterns have been unusual lately, she replied, tucking a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. Something's generating massive energy signatures about 12 parsecs spinward. It's unlike anything in our databases. The captain studied the readings on her tablet, frowning at the swirling data patterns. Could be a pulsar we haven't cataloged yet, or maybe some kind of stellar phenomenon. Zara shook her head, her green eyes bright with curiosity. The signature is irregular, too. Intentional. It pulses every 4.7 seconds. Always the same amplitude. Natural phenomena don't maintain that kind of precision over interstellar distances. You think it's artificial, I think it's a distress signal, she whispered, the words hanging in the recycled air between them. Captain, I know this sounds crazy, but what if it's not coming from any species we know about? Captain Hendricks was quiet for a long moment, weighing the implications. First contact protocols were strict and deviating from their current mission. To investigate unknown signals could cost him his command, but the excitement in Zara's voice reminded him why humanity had reached for the stars. In the first place, plot a course, he decided, but we approach with full shields and weapons ready. If you're right about this being artificial, we need to be prepared for anything. The next 18 hours passed in a blur of calculations and preparations. Zara barely slept, dividing her time between the quantum lab and the bridge, fine-tuning their approach vector and analyzing the signal as it grew stronger. The pattern remained constant, but underlying harmonics suggested something vast and complex generating the transmission. When they finally dropped out of quantum space at the signal's origin, the bridge fell silent. Before them hung a massive space station, clearly alien in design. Its organic curves and bioluminescent panels unlike anything in human architecture. But the structure was damaged. Entire sections dark and venting atmosphere into space. Debris fields suggested recent combat, and energy readings indicated the station was running on emergency power. My God, breathed Navigation Officer Reese. How long has this been here? Zara's instruments painted a clearer picture as she analyzed the exotic matter traces and quantum signatures. Based on the decay patterns, I'd say the damage is less than a week old. The station itself, she paused, recalculating. It's ancient, maybe thousands of years, but it's been maintained and upgraded continuously. Any life signs? Captain Hendricks asked, though his tactical display already showed the answer. 1. Security Chief Morrison replied, his voice tense. Single. Biological signature. Humanoid configuration, located in what appears to be the central hub. Vital signs are erratic. Zara felt her heart racing as she stared at the alien structure. Humanity had been exploring space for centuries, finding planets and resources and even microbial life, but never intelligence. Never someone looking back at them across the void. Captain, she said softly, request permission to join the first contact team. Hendricks looked at her with surprise. Zara, you're an engineer, not a xenobiologist or diplomat, but I understand their technology better than anyone else on this ship, she replied, gesturing to her readings. Look at these quantum patterns. Their power systems operate on principles we're just beginning to theorize about. If we're going to communicate with them, we need someone who can interface with their technology. Before the captain could respond, their communications array crackled to life with a transmission unlike anything they had ever heard. It wasn't radio or laser communication, but something that seemed to resonate directly through their quantum field generators. The words formed in their minds rather than their ears. carrying emotional undertones that made translation unnecessary. "Please, the hunters come. My people, gone, help." The voice was unmistakably masculine, carrying pain and desperate hope in equal measure. Zara closed her eyes and focused on the quantum harmonics, trying to trace the signal back to its source. The pattern was beautiful in its complexity, suggesting a mind capable of thoughts that humans could barely comprehend. "That settles it," Captain Hendricks declared. "Zara, you're with the contact team, Morrison. Full tactical gear, but non-threatening posture. We're dealing with a survivor, not an enemy." As they prepared to board the alien station, Zara found herself checking her appearance in the shuttle's mirror. Her practical shipboard jumpsuit suddenly seemed inadequate for first contact with an alien civilization. She laughed at herself for such a ridiculous concern, but something about that voice in the quantum field had stirred feelings she hadn't expected. The docking port accepted their shuttle with surprising ease, as if the station's artificial intelligence recognized their peaceful intentions. As they stepped through the airlock, Zara gasped at the beauty surrounding them. The corridors were like being inside a living crystal, surfaces that shifted between solid and translucent, pulsing with soft light that seemed to respond to their presence. "This way," she said, following the quantum signatures deeper into the station. "He's close." They found him in what appeared to be a command center, surrounded by floating holographic displays that showed star charts and tactical data. He was tall and elegant, with silver-blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the station's ambient light. His features were humanoid, but refined, as if evolution had spent extra time perfecting the design. Dark hair fell to his shoulders, and when he looked up at their approach, his eyes were the deep purple of distant nebulae. He was beautiful, and he was bleeding. "You came," he whispered in that same voice that resonated through quantum fields. "I did not think. After what happened to your scouts, our scouts." Morrison stepped forward, hand moving instinctively toward his weapon. The alien raised a hand in what was clearly a peaceful gesture. "3 of your small ships, investigating the outer markers 2 cycles ago. The hunters found them before they could retreat. I tried to warn them, but..." His voice trailed off, filled with grief and guilt. Zara moved closer, her medical scanner painting a picture of severe injuries and exhaustion. "You're hurt. Let us help you." When their eyes met, something electric passed between them. The quantum field around them seemed to respond, creating patterns of light that danced across the walls. For a moment, the universe felt smaller and infinite at the same time. "I am Kale," he said, his voice carrying new warmth. "And you, quantum singer, what are you called?" "Zara," she replied, wondering how he knew about her work with quantum harmonics. "We received your distress signal. What happened here?" 3 days had passed since the Whisper had docked with Kel's station, and Zara found herself spending every spare moment in the alien command center. What had started as technical consultations to help repair the station's quantum generators had evolved into something far more personal. She sat cross-legged on the crystalline floor, watching Kel's long fingers dance across holographic interfaces. As he showed her star charts of his home system, "This was Nethes Prime," he said softly, his voice carrying that unique harmonic quality that made her quantum instruments resonate. The hologram displayed a world of impossible beauty, with floating crystal cities connected by bridges of pure light. "My people called it the singing world, because the quantum crystals in our mountains created natural harmonies. When the solar winds touched them," Zara leaned closer, fascinated by the organic architecture that seemed to grow rather than be built. "It's beautiful. Your people are artists as much as they are engineers." Kel's purple eyes met hers, and she felt that familiar flutter in her chest. "We're artists. The Devourers came 6 months ago. They consumed our songs first, then our cities." Then his voice broke, and the hologram flickered with his emotional distress. Without thinking, Zara reached out and took his hand. His skin was warm despite its ethereal appearance, and she felt a tingle of energy pass between them. "I'm sorry. I can't imagine losing everything like that." "You humans have an interesting approach to comfort," Kale observed, looking down at their joined hands with curiosity rather than discomfort. My people express sympathy through harmonic resonance, but physical touch, it's more immediate, more real. Different doesn't mean wrong, Zara said, surprised by her own boldness. She had never been particularly forward with romantic interests, but something about Kale made her usual shyness evaporate. Maybe you could teach me about harmonic sympathy. Kel's expression shifted to something warmer, more hopeful. Close your eyes and listen not with your ears, but with your quantum awareness. Feel the station's energy patterns. Zara closed her eyes and extended her consciousness the way she did. When calibrating quantum drives, immediately, she became aware of the station's energy signature, a complex symphony of power flows and data streams. But underneath it, she sensed something else, Cal's own bioelectric field, pulsing with emotions she could almost taste. I can feel you, she whispered. Amazed, your thoughts have colors, textures. Among my people, sharing harmonic resonance is the deepest form of intimacy, Kale said, his voice taking on new layers of meaning, to let someone feel your emotions directly. Without words or barriers, it is both gift and vulnerability. The sensation was intoxicating. Zara could sense Kel's loneliness, his grief for his lost people, but also something warmer and more immediate, his growing feelings for her. The knowledge should have been overwhelming, but instead it felt like coming home. Kale, she began, opening her eyes to find him watching her with that intensity that made her breath catch. Zara, I must tell you something that may change how you see me, he interrupted, his harmonics carrying urgent concern. I am not just a survivor of the Devourer attacks. I am a warrior poet of the ethereal guard, sworn to protect the quantum singers of my world. She felt his shame through their connection, and it confused her. Why would that change anything? You protected your people. I failed them, Kale said, pulling his hand away and breaking their harmonic link. The sudden loss of connection left Zara feeling cold and isolated. The Devourers came while I was pursuing their scout fleet at the Rim Worlds. By the time I returned, Nephi's prime was gone, consumed. Billions of my people died because I chose glory over vigilance. Zara studied his face, seeing the self-recrimination that had been eating at him for months. You couldn't have known. You were trying to stop them before they reached your home. A quantum singer from the outer colonies managed to escape and brought word of my people's fate. Kale continued, his voice growing distant. She told me that in their final moments, they sang my name in harmonized prayer, believing I would come to save them. Instead, I arrived to find nothing but empty space where my world had been. The raw pain in his words made Zara's chest ache. She stood and moved closer, ignoring his attempt to maintain distance. Kale, look at me. When he raised his purple eyes to meet hers, she placed both hands on his face, feeling the subtle energy that flowed beneath his silver blue skin. You are not responsible for their deaths, the Devourers are. And instead of giving up, you're here trying to warn others. That's not failure, that's heroism. Your species has such simple ways of seeing complex truths, Kale said. But his voice carried fondness rather than criticism. Among my people, failure in duty brings harmonic discord that can last lifetimes. Then maybe, Zara said, moving even closer until she could feel his breath on her face. It's time to learn some human ways of dealing with grief. Before either of them could overthink the moment, she rose on her toes and kissed him. His lips were soft and warm, and she felt a jolt of quantum energy pass between them that made the station's lights flicker. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. That was, Kale began, his harmonics creating visible patterns in the air around them. Definitely not in the first contact protocols. Zara finished with a laugh that sounded breathless even to her own ears. Their moment was interrupted by Captain Hendrick's voice over the calm system. Zara, we need you on the bridge immediately. Long-range sensors are picking up multiple contacts approaching our position. The warmth drained from Kel's face as he moved to his own sensor displays. The holographic star chart shifted to show their local space, and Zara felt her heart sink as she saw the approaching signatures, dark ships moving in perfect formation, their energy patterns unlike anything in human databases. They found us, Kale whispered, his harmonics carrying such despair that Zara's quantum instruments began resonating in sympathetic frequencies. The Devourers, They followed your ship's quantum wake. Zara felt panic rising in her throat, but she forced herself to think like an engineer rather than a frightened woman. How long do we have? At their current speed, perhaps 6 hours before they reach weapons range, Kale replied, his warrior training taking over despite his emotional state. Your ship cannot outrun them, and this station has no functional weapons systems. Then we run, Zara said, grabbing his hand again. Both of us, together. Kale stared at her in amazement. You would take me with you? An alien refugee, whose presence endangers your entire crew. You're not just any alien. Zara replied, her voice fierce with determination. You're the man who tried to save his world, who's been carrying the weight of an entire civilization's death, who just taught me that love can transcend species barriers. She paused, realizing what she had just admitted. You're Kale, and I'm not leaving you here to die. The quantum field around them pulsed with shared emotion as Kale pulled her close, his harmonics creating a symphony of hope and desperate affection. Then we must gather what data we can about the Devourers before we flee. Your people need to understand what they face. As they worked frantically to download Kel's tactical files and the station's sensor logs, Zara found herself amazed by how naturally they moved together, her technical expertise complementing his warrior instincts. When their hands brushed while working at the same console, sparks of quantum energy danced between their fingers. Zara, Kale said as the final data transfers completed, there's something else you must know about the Devourers. They do not simply destroy worlds, they consume them. Everything that made a civilization unique, every song and story and work of art, becomes part of their collective hunger. What are you saying? I am saying, Kale replied, his harmonics carrying new resolve that running may not be enough. Eventually, they will consume everything unless someone finds a way to stop them. Your Earth, with all its diverse life and potential, would be particularly appetizing to them. As they prepared to abandon the station that had been Kel's home for the past months, Zara realized that their romance was no longer just about two people finding love across the void. They were potentially the only ones who could warn Earth about the approaching threat, and their relationship might be the key to bridging the gap between human and alien knowledge. Ready? She asked, shouldering a pack full of quantum data crystals. Kale took one last look around the command center, then placed his hand over his heart in what Zara had learned was a Nephesian gesture of farewell. I am ready to face whatever comes next, as long as you are beside me. Together, they ran toward the docking bay where the Whisper waited, carrying with them the hopes of two civilizations and a love that had bloomed in the darkness between stars. Marcus Chen Volkov stood in the observation dome of Earth's Yellowstone orbital station, watching wolves hunt elk in the valley below through high-powered telescopes. At 32, he had spent the last decade studying predator-prey dynamics across Earth's ecosystems, but today his research had taken on deadly urgency. The data streams from the Whisper had reached Earth 3 weeks ago, along with their alien passenger and the woman who had become his advocate. Still think animals can teach us how to fight space monsters? Vera Castellanos asked, joining him at the observation platform. The Defense Ministry's chief strategist was brilliant, but skeptical, her dark eyes always searching for flaws in unconventional theories. Marcus gestured toward the wolves below as they used coordinated pack tactics to separate a young elk from the herd. Every successful species on Earth has learned to survive against something that wanted to eat it. The Devourers are just predators on a galactic scale, but wolves aren't fighting beings with faster-than-light travel and energy weapons that can vaporize continents, Vera pointed out, though her tone suggested she was genuinely interested in his theories rather than dismissing them. The principles remain the same, Marcus replied, his fingers dancing across his tablet to call up behavioral data. Overwhelming force can be countered by superior tactics, environmental advantages, and understanding your enemy's psychology. Watch this. He showed her footage of a honey badger driving off 3 lions despite being outweighed 50-1. The badger wins not because it's stronger, but because it's willing to pay a higher price for the confrontation than its opponents. Vera studied the footage, her strategic mind clearly processing the implications. You're suggesting we make ourselves too costly to conquer? I'm suggesting we stop thinking like prey and start thinking like Earth's apex predators. But more importantly, Marcus said, his voice taking on new intensity, we need to understand that Kel's people fought like honorable warriors and lost. We need to fight like survivors. Their conversation was interrupted by an aide announcing the arrival of the Whisper's crew. Marcus felt his pulse quicken as he thought about finally meeting the alien who had captured so much of Earth's attention. The scientific community was fascinated by Kel's quantum harmonics, but it was his relationship with Zara Blackwood that had made interspecies romance a global talking point. In the station's main conference room, Marcus got his first look at the couple who had become the face of human-alien cooperation. Zara looked tired but determined, her auburn hair pulled back in a practical ponytail as she reviewed tactical displays. Beside her sat Kale, and Marcus had to admit the alien was striking. His silver-blue skin seemed to shimmer with internal light, and when he spoke, his voice carried harmonics that made the room's electronics hum in sympathy. The pack-hunting behavior you've identified in Earth's predators mirrors the Devourers' tactical approach, Kale was explaining to the assembled military analysts. But where your wolves learn caution from failed hunts, the Devourers seem to view losses as data rather than deterrence. Marcus leaned forward. What about territorial behavior? On Earth, even apex predators respect the boundaries of other dangerous species. Kel's purple eyes met his, and Marcus felt an odd sensation, as if the alien was reading more than just his words. An intriguing perspective. My people tried to establish such boundaries through diplomatic channels. The Devourers consumed our ambassadors and learned our languages from their memories. Then we don't negotiate, Vera said firmly. We make them understand that Earth is defended by something they've never encountered before. Zara looked up from her displays, her green eyes bright with sudden inspiration. Marcus, you said Earth's predators succeed through environmental advantages. What if we could turn our entire solar system into a hunting ground? The idea sent excitement through Marcus's chest. He pulled up holographic displays of Earth's solar system, pointing to key positions, asteroid fields for ambush points, gas, giant atmospheres to disrupt sensors, solar radiation patterns that could mask ship movements. Your species thinks in 3 dimensions while maintaining awareness of time as a tactical factor. Kale observed, and Marcus could hear approval in his harmonic undertones. My people fought in space as if it were an ocean with surface and depth. You think of it as a forest with infinite paths and hiding places. As the strategic session continued, Marcus found himself stealing glances at Zara and Kale. Their connection was obvious in small gestures, the way she unconsciously leaned toward him. When he spoke, how his bioluminescent patterns seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. It was beautiful and alien and somehow deeply familiar. During a break in the meetings, Marcus approached Zara as she stood alone on an observation deck. How do you do it? He asked. Do what? Love someone from another species. The cultural barriers alone must be. Zara smiled, and Marcus realized she was genuinely happy despite the global crisis surrounding them. At first, I thought the same thing, but love isn't about understanding every difference. It's about accepting them and finding the connections underneath. And the physical differences don't matter. Different doesn't mean incompatible. Zara replied, her cheeks coloring slightly. Kel's people express emotions through quantum harmonics. When he's happy or sad or passionate, it creates energy patterns I can feel through my quantum sensitivity. It's more intimate than any human relationship I've ever experienced. Marcus felt a pang of loneliness that surprised him. His work studying predator behavior had consumed his life for years, leaving little room for personal relationships. Do you think there could be others like you, humans who could connect with alien species that way? I think, Zara said thoughtfully, that love finds a way regardless of biology. The real question is whether we'll have the chance to explore those possibilities after we deal with the Devourers. Their conversation was interrupted by alarms throughout the station. Emergency broadcasts filled the air as long-range sensors detected the outer edge of the Devourer fleet entering the solar system. In the command center, Marcus watched tactical displays show the approaching alien formation. Thousands of dark ships moved with predatory grace, their approach vectors designed to cut off escape routes and drive Earth's defenders toward a central killing ground. They're hunting us like wolves hunt deer, he said, sudden understanding dawning, driving us toward a predetermined kill zone where their superior firepower gives maximum advantage. Vera nodded grimly. Exactly what we expected. All defense fleets implement Yellowstone Protocol. Make them chase us into the asteroid fields. Marcus felt his heart racing as Earth's scattered defense forces began their carefully choreographed retreat. Ships fled toward the outer system in apparent panic, but their flight paths followed routes Marcus had planned based on observations of prey species. Using terrain to their advantage, will this work? Zara asked, her hand finding Kel's as they watched the tactical display. Predator overconfidence is the prey's greatest weapon, Marcus replied. Earth's animals learned that lesson millions of years ago. If we can make the devourers believe we're just another civilization running in fear. Kel's harmonics carried uncertainty. These creatures have consumed dozens of species across several galaxies. Arms, they will not be easily deceived. Maybe not, Marcus agreed. But they've never encountered a species that learned predatory behavior from a planet where everything eats everything else. As the first Devourer scouts entered the asteroid fields and began triggering the carefully placed ambushes, Marcus allowed himself to hope. The hidden weapons platforms activated like spider traps. Ship-sized rocks revealed themselves as camouflaged destroyers, and the retreating Earth forces suddenly turned to attack with coordinated precision that would have made a wolf pack proud. On the screens, he watched Devourer formations falter as they encountered tactics that defied their previous experience. These weren't honorable warriors fighting defensive battles or terrified civilians fleeing in panic. These were Earth's children, using for billion years of evolutionary wisdom to turn the hunters into the hunted. It's working. Vera breathed, watching Devourer casualty reports climb. They're actually taking significant losses. Marcus felt a hand on his shoulder and turned to find Zara smiling at him. Your predator studies may have just saved our species. Don't celebrate yet, he warned, though he couldn't hide his own excitement. This is just the opening gambit. The real test comes when they adapt to our tactics. Kel's voice carried new harmonics Marcus was learning to interpret as respect. Your people fight like they learned warfare from the universe's most dangerous teachers. Perhaps there is hope after all. As Marcus watched Earth's defense forces execute maneuvers inspired by everything from pack hunting to swarm tactics, he realized that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their courage. It was their ability to learn from every creature that had ever struggled to survive on their violent, beautiful world. The battle for Earth had begun, and for the first time since learning about the Devourers, Marcus believed they might actually win. The war room beneath Earth's Antarctic defense complex buzzed with desperate activity. As the second wave of Devourer attacks began, Marcus Chen Volkov stood beside a holographic display showing casualty reports from the outer system, his jaw tight with frustration. Their predator-inspired ambush tactics had worked brilliantly for the first 12 hours, but the enemy was adapting faster than any Earth species ever had. They're learning from every engagement, he reported to the assembled strategists. Each time we use pack tactics, they develop counterformations. When we ambush from asteroid fields, they start clearing the rocks with energy sweeps before advancing. Zara looked up from her quantum analysis station, exhaustion evident in her green eyes. She had been working for 36 straight hours, trying to decode the harmonic patterns that controlled Devourer ship formations. It's like fighting an entire ecosystem that shares a collective memory. Every mistake we force them to make gets instantly distributed to their entire fleet. Kale moved beside her, his bioluminescent patterns dim with fatigue and concern. My people faced the same adaptation process. Each victory we achieved became meaningless within days, as they incorporated our tactics into their own strategic matrix. Then we need to think beyond Earth predators, Vera Castellanos said, her voice carrying the strain of coordinating a planet-wide defense. What tactics would work against an enemy that learns from every encounter? Marcus found himself staring at Zara and Kale, noting how naturally they moved together even under extreme stress. When she reached for a data pad, he anticipated her need and handed it to her. When he analyzed enemy patterns, her quantum insights provided context he would have missed. Their relationship had become a seamless fusion of human intuition and alien perception. "Wait," Marcus said suddenly, an idea crystallizing. "What if we're thinking about this wrong? We've been trying to fight like individual predator species, but Earth's real advantage isn't any single hunting strategy." "What do you mean?" Vera asked. Marcus called up displays showing Earth's ecosystems. Every successful predator on our planet had to compete with other predators. Lions fight leopards and hyenas for territory. Wolves compete with bears and mountain lions. Our entire biosphere is a constant arms race between different hunting strategies. Zara's eyes widened with understanding. "You're saying we need to fight like multiple species simultaneously?" "Exactly. The devourers can adapt to one type of predator behavior, but can they handle an environment where pack hunters, ambush predators, persistence hunters, and swarm attackers all operate at the same time?" Kel's harmonics carried new interest. "Your species would coordinate multiple contradictory tactical approaches." "Not contradictory," Marcus corrected. "Complementary. Like an ecosystem where every predator fills a different niche, but they all pressure the same prey." Populations. As they worked to implement this multi-species approach, Marcus found himself increasingly drawn into Zara and Kel's partnership. The alien's ability to perceive quantum patterns complemented her technical expertise, but Marcus's understanding of behavioral dynamics provided strategic context that neither of them possessed alone. "The shark units should strike here," he said, pointing to a devour formation attempting to regroup near Jupiter. "Fast, brutal, then disappear before they can respond, while the wolf packs coordinate pincer movements from these positions." Zara added, her fingers dancing over tactical displays. "Kale, can you predict their formation response based on your people's combat experience?" Kale studied the enemy patterns, his purple eyes distant as he accessed memories of battles his species had fought and lost. "They will contract their perimeter and strengthen their center, expecting sustained pressure from a single direction." "Perfect," Marcus said. "That's when the spider units activate, hidden weapons platforms that have been dormant since the first wave." As Earth's fleets launched their coordinated assault, Marcus felt a strange tension building in the command center. Working so closely with Zara and Kale had created an unexpected intimacy between the three of them. He found himself finishing Kel's tactical observations, while simultaneously understanding Zara's quantum calculations with unusual clarity. "Marcus," Zara said during a brief lull in the battle, "I need to tell you something. Can it wait?" he asked, focused on coordinating the next wave of attacks. "It's about why you can understand our tactical discussions so easily," she continued. "Kel's quantum harmonics aren't just affecting our electronics anymore. They're creating a resonance field that includes you." Marcus looked up sharply, suddenly, aware of the subtle energy he had been feeling around them. "What does that mean?" Kel's expression was carefully neutral. "Among my people, harmonic resonance can expand beyond paired individuals. Under conditions of extreme stress and shared purpose, it appears that your emotional investment in our success has opened you to the quantum field. That connects Zara and myself. You're saying the three of us are linked temporarily," Zara said quickly, though her cheeks colored as she spoke. "The connection will fade once the crisis ends." Marcus felt his heart racing as he realized he could sense both their emotional states. As background impressions, Zara's fierce determination mixed with worry for both him and Kale. The alien's complex blend of hope, guilt, and growing affection for both his human companions. And underneath it all, a current of attraction that flowed between all three of them in ways that defied simple categorization. "This is," Marcus began, then stopped as another wave of devour attacks demanded their attention. The multi-species tactical approach was working better than Marcus had dared hope. Devour formations found themselves under simultaneous assault from enemies that behaved according to completely different hunting philosophies. When they adapted to counter wolf pack coordination, spider trap ambushes caught them off guard. When they developed defenses against ambush predators, persistence hunters wore them down with continuous harassment attacks. "They're showing confusion patterns," Kale reported, his harmonics carrying excitement. "Their adaptation matrix cannot process contradictory behavioral inputs simultaneously, like trying to develop immunity to multiple different venoms at the same time," Zara added, her understanding enhanced by the quantum link she shared with both men. But as the battle raged on, Marcus began to sense something else through their connection. The Devourers weren't just adapting to their tactics, they were learning about the quantum resonance that linked the three human commanders there, targeting our command signatures, he realized with growing alarm. "They're tracking the harmonic patterns that connect us. Can they use that against us?" Vera asked, though her tactical displays already showed Devour forces beginning to concentrate their attacks on positions where the three of them were coordinating defenses. "Worse," Kale said, his harmonics carrying fear for the first time since Marcus had met him. "If they can analyze our quantum resonance patterns, they might be able to replicate them, to create false command signals that could turn our own forces against each other." Zara's eyes met Marcus's across the command center. "We need to break the connection. It's too dangerous, but we need the tactical advantage it gives us." Marcus protested, though he could feel the logic of her argument through their shared awareness. "Not if it compromises the entire defense," Kale said firmly. "My people died partly because the Devourers learned to mimic our harmonic command structures. I will not let that happen to your species." The decision to sever their quantum link was more painful than Marcus had expected. As Kale used his harmonic abilities to dampen the resonance field, Marcus felt a profound sense of loss. The clarity of understanding, the seamless cooperation, the intimate awareness of his companion's thoughts and feelings, all of it faded back to normal human perception. "Are you both all right?" he asked, noting how Zara and Kale instinctively moved closer together as their primary bond reasserted itself. "Different," Zara said softly, "but we'll adapt. Your species excels at adaptation," Kale observed, though his harmonics carried regret for the lost connection. As the battle continued without their quantum link, Marcus realized that their brief three-way resonance had changed something fundamental about their relationships. He understood now why Zara loved the alien warrior poet, but he also recognized that Kale had developed genuine affection for him as well. The situation was complex in ways that human society had no frameworks for understanding. "After this is over," Marcus said quietly during another lull in the fighting, "we're going to need to talk about what happened between us." "Yes," Zara agreed, her hand finding Kel's while her eyes met Marcus's with understanding. "We are." The final Devour assault came at dawn Earth time, a massive coordinated strike that tested every tactical innovation they had developed. But Earth's defense held, adapted, and ultimately prevailed using the multi-species approach that Marcus had proposed and refined through his temporary connection with his alien and human partners. 6 months after the Devour War ended, Marcus Chen Volkov stood in the newly constructed Interspecies Cultural Center, overlooking the Pacific, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. The building's organic architecture, inspired by both human and Nephesian design principles, had become a symbol of the new galactic cooperation that was reshaping civilization. Behind him, he could hear Zara and Kale preparing for their presentation to the Galactic Council's Xenobiology Committee, their voices blended together in easy conversation, punctuated occasionally by the harmonic undertones that still made Marcus's chest tighten with memory and longing. The quantum resonance data from the battle suggests that cross-species psychic links might be more common than we initially believed, Zara was saying, her fingers dancing across holographic displays, particularly under conditions of extreme emotional stress and shared purpose. "Your research has implications beyond military applications," Kale replied, his voice carrying those distinctive harmonics that had become as familiar to Marcus as his own heartbeat. "Among my people, such connections were considered sacred, reserved for life-bonded pairs. But perhaps we have been too limiting in our understanding." Marcus turned from the window, studying the two people who had become the center of his emotional world in ways he was still learning to navigate. Any word from the Outer Rim colonies about other species showing similar resonance capabilities? The Crystalline Collective has agreed to participate in joint studies, Zara answered, then paused, her green eyes meeting his with the careful attention she had been showing him. Since their quantum connection had ended, Marcus, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. Which elephant would that be? He asked. Though they all knew perfectly well what she meant, Cale moved closer. His bioluminescent patterns shifting to colors Marcus had learned indicated thoughtful concern. The temporary resonance we shared during the war created bonds that did not simply disappear. When I severed the quantum link, we can all sense it. Marcus felt his heart rate increase as they finally addressed what had been simmering beneath the surface of their friendship for months. I know you to have something special. I'm not trying to interfere with that. You're not interfering, Zara said firmly. You're part of it. The question is what we do about that. Human social structures aren't exactly designed for interspecies relationships, much less polyamorous ones involving telepathic aliens, Marcus pointed out, though his tone carried more curiosity than objection. Perhaps, Cale said, his harmonics taking on new depths. It is time for human social structures to evolve. Your species has shown remarkable adaptability in every other aspect of galactic integration. Marcus looked between them, seeing the hope and uncertainty in Zara's expression, the patient acceptance in Kel's alien features. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying, Zara replied, moving closer until she could take both men's hands, that love doesn't follow the rules we expect it to, and maybe that's okay. The touch sent familiar tingles of energy through Marcus's nervous system, a pale echo of the full quantum resonance they had shared during the battle. He could feel Kel's emotional presence like a warm current in his mind, and Zara's fierce determination to build something new. From the connections they had forged in crisis, the Galactic Council is already dealing with dozens of new relationship models. As different species interact, Marcus said, his analytical mind processing the implications. Crystalline beings who bond in geometric matrices, gaseous intelligences that merge and separate at will, hive minds that develop individual romantic attachments. Exactly, Cale said, and Marcus could hear approval in his harmonics. The galaxy is discovering that love is far more diverse and adaptable than any single species imagined. Their moment was interrupted by the arrival of Captain Hendricks and a delegation of officials from the new Interspecies Defense Alliance. The older man looked tired but satisfied as he entered the observation lounge. The Council has approved the formation of joint tactical units based on your multi-species hunting strategies, he announced. Every member world wants to learn Earth's predator-inspired defense doctrines. What about the relationship protocols? Zara asked, referencing the ongoing debates about how different species should interact on personal levels. Still under discussion, Hendricks admitted, though your three-way collaboration during the war has become a case study in successful cross-species cooperation. Some officials are suggesting it as a model for future joint operations. Marcus caught the meaningful glance that passed between Zara and Cale. Captain, what exactly are you proposing? The Council wants to establish permanent liaison teams, combining human tactical analysis, quantum engineering expertise, and alien cultural knowledge. Your team's success during the Devour crisis makes you the obvious choice to lead the program. Together, Zara asked, her voice carefully neutral. Together, Hendricks confirmed. You'd be stationed on rotating assignments throughout the galaxy, helping different species adapt Earth's defensive strategies while learning from their own evolutionary advantages. Marcus felt excitement building in his chest as he realized what this meant. Not only would they be working together professionally, but they would be doing so in environments where their unconventional relationship structure might be more easily accepted. There's one catch, Hendricks continued. The assignments would require deep psychological compatibility assessments. The Council needs to verify that your team dynamic can function under extended isolation and stress. How deep? Cale asked, his harmonics carrying subtle warning tones. Full quantum resonance analysis. They want to understand exactly how your mental connection works and whether it can be safely replicated with other species combinations. Marcus saw Zara's face pale slightly. Reconnecting to the quantum link they had shared would mean opening themselves completely to each other again. including the complex emotional and physical attractions that had developed between all three of them. When? She asked quietly. Next week, if you accept the assignment. After Hendricks left, the three of them stood in silence for several minutes, watching ships from a dozen different species move through Earth's orbital traffic patterns. The galaxy had become a much busier place since the Devour War ended. Are we ready for that level of intimacy? Marcus finally asked. Full quantum resonance means no mental privacy, no hidden thoughts or feelings. We already know how we feel about each other, Zara pointed out. The resonance would just make it impossible to pretend otherwise. Among my people, Kale said softly, such deep connection requires absolute trust and commitment. It is not entered into lightly, even between traditional pairs. But we're not traditional anything, Marcus replied. We're making this up as we go along. Zara moved to the center of their small group, taking both men's hands again. Then let's make it up together, officially. You mean, Marcus began. I mean, let's stop dancing around what we all want and commit to exploring it fully. The quantum assessment, the joint assignments, the relationship experiment, all of it. Kel's bioluminescent patterns shifted to colors Marcus had never seen before. Swirling combinations that seemed to represent joy and nervous anticipation in equal measure. Your species' approach to emotional risk-taking continues to amaze me. Is that a yes? Zara asked, her eyes bright with hope and determination. It is, Kale replied, his harmonics creating visible patterns in the air around them. Marcus felt the last of his reservations dissolving as he looked at his companions. They had saved Earth by learning to think beyond conventional limits, by combining different approaches into something stronger than any single strategy. Perhaps love worked the same way. Yes, he said firmly. Let's see what happens when we stop fighting evolution and start embracing it. 1 year later, Marcus stood in the observation deck of the starship Harmony, watching a binary sunset paint the sky of Kepler 442b in spectacular purples and golds. Their current assignment involved teaching the planet's crystalline inhabitants how to coordinate defensive strategies with their silicon-based ecosystem, and the work had been both challenging and rewarding. Behind him, Zara worked at a quantum analysis station. Her consciousness partially merged with Kel's through the resonance link. They now maintained constantly. The connection had deepened and stabilized over months of practice, allowing them to share thoughts and emotions while still maintaining their individual identities. The mineral formations are responding to our tactical suggestions, she reported, her voice carrying the harmonic undertones that indicated Kale was processing data alongside her. They're reorganizing their crystalline matrices to create natural choke points for potential invaders. Marcus smiled as he felt their shared satisfaction through the quantum link. That now included him as a permanent third partner. The arrangement still raised eyebrows in some human colonies, but throughout most of the galaxy, their relationship model had become accepted as simply another variation in the universe's infinite diversity of love. How long until the defensive grid is complete? He asked, moving closer to wrap his arms around both his partners.